Yo-ho everybody, and welcome to Board Game Heaven. In this video I'm taking a look at Dice Splice by SeaGriffin Games. It's a game by Kate Russell and Matt Tweed, and this is a dexterity game for ages 5 and up for 1 to 6 players, which plays in about 15 minutes. It's got a lot of colorful dice and several difficulties to play it in. And before I explain how to play the game and share my thoughts, I'd like to ask you to please hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. That really helps the channel. And please also check out my Patreon page to see how you can support my channel. Patreon Saints get early access to all of my videos, access to Patreon exclusive content, and also their name in the credits. Plus you automatically save up for the exclusive Board Game Heaven enamel pin. And with that out of the way, let's set up a game. So let's start with the basics of the game. The game, as you can see, comes with lots of dice. There are 78 of these treasure dice in various colors with all kinds of symbols on them. And there's 3 golden dice as well for an advanced game. And there's 20 different plank tiles which have different shapes, and they have one side with nothing on them and one side with these pirate rats on them. And if you're a beginner at the game, or if you're playing with kids, you do not use the golden dice. You put the rest of the dice in the velvet bag, felt bag, and you put all of them in. I'll just leave them out for the explanation of the game here, but players will be drawing dice from this bag. To start the treasure stack, because this is a stacking game, it's a dexterity game, you need to form a base. So every player chooses one of these planks and places it in the middle of the table, choosing which side up as well. And it can play up to 6 players. So you simply pick one of the bases. Let's say I'm picking this one right here, and we'll leave these out for a bit right now. Then the second player also chooses one, and they have to touch at least one other base. It doesn't have to be like neatly oriented like this or whatever. They just have to touch. So you could actually do this. And maybe there's a third player and they only have to touch one other. So they could do this, but they can, of course, if they want to also touch 2 of these. Maybe a fourth player just wants a little tile here. Maybe they want this side up and they're going to do it like this. And once you've done that, then every player takes 7 random dice from the bag. So you just reach in the bag and you randomly pick 7 dice. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This might be my hand. Maybe the second player has these dice right here. Another player has, let's say, these 7 right here, like that. And the fourth player has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, has these here. And these are all still in the bag. And then you decide which player will start. So then the first player takes their 7 dice and rolls them. And you can, of course, use the box lid or bottom for that if you want to. Or maybe you have a dice tray. And then you choose 3 of those dice to place on the base right there. So let's say I'm gonna pick these 3, and they can be placed on any spot on the planks, but they have to line up with the squares marked. So only the squares, and you cannot put them on spots that have the rats. So let's just say I'm gonna put 1 over here, I'm gonna put 1 over here, and 1 over here. Then that player draws back up to 7 randomly from the bag. So 1, 2, 3, and play continues clockwise. So you just take your dice. The second player then is this one, rolls their dice and does the same. Now this player can place their dice on empty spots on the planks or on top of other dice with either a matching color or a matching symbol, and the symbol of course being the top one. And you must always place 3 dice. Only if there are no clear squares or dice matches, you may stack fewer than 3. So in this case, I have a treasure chest here. I could stack that on top of this treasure chest, or even this one, which also matches the color. So that's a double match, but I can't put it on that one because that's a different color and different symbol. So let's just put one of them here. Then do we have a green one? Yeah, we have a green one. Maybe we want to stack that one on top of this. But of course, I can also put my third die. Maybe I want to do a purple one, which would give me some more options later on. And I want to put that one on an empty space. So that player is done. Draws back up to 7 from the bag. And the next player takes their turn. Play just continues clockwise until somebody causes any of the dice on the treasure pile to fall. And that means that the last player to successfully finish their turn before it all tumbles down is the winner. And if nobody causes a so-called treasure lunch, the first player to run out of dice in their hand is the victorious winner. Now in the base rules set, that will only happen once all the dice have been drawn from the bag, of course, and you just play out your hand of dice. But you can make the game a lot more interesting by using the advanced rules called planks, splices, and Paradice. Planks, of course, means that you may place another plank. So if you wish, you can take one plank either side up on your turn and put it on top of the stack. So let's try that out here with this one, for example. Maybe I want to put that on top of this. You just kind of figure out how you can do that. And boop, and you put it on top, and that's it. Now, placing a plank does not count towards one of your 3 dice placements. You also cannot add another plank to the base once the game has begun, only on top of the towering dice of the treasure stack. And when viewed from above, any spots, any squares of planks below higher planks that are obscured from view can no longer be used to place dice on. So I could not place a die here or here, for example, because this square here kind of covers up both of these. Now this game mode also introduces a second way to win. If you can place all 7 dice in your hand onto the stack in one turn, you also claim glorious victory because you'll be out of dice. So how can you do that? You can do that by, for example, getting Paradice. And that means when you take your dice and you roll them and you have any dice like this one that matches color and symbol with dice already on the board, you must place those Paradice on their matches before taking your normal turn. And this is compulsory, but does not count towards the 3 dice that you will place normally. So right now, this is of course the only Paradice that I have. I don't have purple grails there. So now I have to place my remaining 3 dice as normal. If I roll a splice, which means 2 or even more dice in my rolled hand that match each other in both color and symbols, that's a splice. So had all of these had the same symbol, so this black diamond here, and here is another black diamond. This is a orange treasure chest. This is also an orange treasure chest and a light blue barrel. I'll look it up, and also a light blue barrel right here. If I had rolled this, and the odds are of course pretty small, but then I could have placed all of these at the same time. So I could have placed these 2 on top of each other here, and these 2 over here, and these 2 on another empty spot. So let's say over here. Now placing Paradice on dice that are already there is compulsory, and you do that, like I said before, placing your regular 3 dice, but splices are not mandatory. And again, with these advanced rules, gameplay simply continues until the tower topples or somebody manages to clear out all of their dice in one turn. Now, when placing planks, let's say this die was already on top of this one with matching color. You can place planks however you want, as long as it doesn't topple. So maybe I can do this. But then the next player could potentially place another plank on top of those. They could do this, but that would mean that the elevation is slightly different because this die already has a plank, this die does not. So if I did that like this, it would be crooked a bit. So keep that in mind. You can do that, but it will make your construction, your pile, a bit more unstable. Maybe you want to do that on purpose. And always remember to check from the top which lower squares are obscured. So this one would still be possible right there. So I could place a die here, but not on any that are covered by higher up. So all of this here in the back would be covered up, and these two would be covered up. So let's also talk about the included golden dice, which is an extra addition to the base game. And you simply put them in the bag with all the rest of the dice and give them a good mix. Now, if you draw one of the golden dice as part of your hand, you roll that one first and act on it before rolling the other 6. And if you draw more than one of the golden dice, roll them all and act on them one by one. And once you use their action, you return them to the bag. Now, all the symbols on the regular dice are simply meant for matching purposes in the game, but these symbols have all got a different meaning. So, for example, here, this is the so-called whirlpool, and that spins fortunes. The direction of play reverses and you miss your turn. You put the whirlpool back in the bag, and when your turn comes back around, play only with your remaining 6 dice. Should you be playing solo, you re-roll this result. This is the parrot result. You put this one on top of the highest treasure tower in the stack, but this one does not return to the bag, it just stays on the stack, and no other dice may be stacked on top of the parrot. This sea monster is called a Morgar, and when you roll this, they take one of your other dice with them when they go back in the bag. This result is a risky one. This is the Kraken, and this many-tentacled monster will grab one die from all other players, making them play with 6 dice instead of 7, but you get extra dice. If you're playing solo, you take 3 extra dice from the bag. The skull and crossbones result here is a positive one. This lets you give one of your dice to another player. And if you're playing solo, you put one of your treasure dice back in the bag and you simply play with 5. And lastly, when you roll an anchor, you place an extra plank on the table to increase the base of the treasure stack. And it must again touch at least one of the others. Now, on the rare occasion when only golden dice are left in play at the end of the game because all the other dice have been used and this is what you pull from the bag, you turn them all parrot side up and stack them on the highest towers until a winner is declared. And you cannot place any other dice on top of the parrot, not even another parrot. Now, an optional rule to make it even more challenging is to not place a plank at the start of the game. So in this case, with the 4 players, a player may choose to forego placing a plank to make the base smaller and make it more challenging for all players. Now, there are even more additional rules to make the game even more interesting and challenging. So there is the secret silvers, and that means that all the silver dice, these gray ones, that's the pirate's silver, and you want to hide that away lest the merfolk come and steal it. So you can only place silver dice on the stack if you can immediately cover them with another color die, which then of course needs to have the same symbol. So if I have these in my roll and I have this one as well, for example, then I cannot place this one and then this one on top because that's a different symbol. But I can place this one, for example, and then a green one with the same symbol on top to cover up my silver. This is already getting wobbly. But I could, however, place multiple silvers with the same symbol, like I have these Paradice or Splices, if you will, on top of each other, and then cover them up with another die of the same symbol, should I have that in that same roll. And if only silver dice are left at the end of a game, you may place them uncovered as if they were colored dice. However, if any other player does have colored dice left in their hand, excluding the golden ones, then play passes to them until all the colored dice are stacked, and only then may uncovered silver be placed on the stack. And then there's another tactical element rule that you can optionally play, which is called a Shipwrecker's Gamble. And that means you may choose to keep any unplaced dice from your previous roll to add another element of strategy to your game. So you place dice onto the stack, and let's say I've placed 3, I have these left. I may choose to keep those and not re-roll them, or any of them. I draw back up to 7, and I keep these hidden. And on my next turn, I may either roll all 7 dice together or keep any or all of my previously rolled dice aside. So maybe I want to keep these because, you know, that's a splice. And let's just re-roll these, and I keep the others hidden, so I just re-roll those, and that might give you some tactical advantage. And I already touched on solo play with these golden dice rules, so if you want to play this solo, to win you simply need to clear your hand in one turn or stack all dice without causing a treasure lanch. And you can challenge yourself by experimenting with different base sizes or plank placements, and by adding rules from the additional rules that I mentioned. There's also an expansion to the game called the pearl dice, which are these white ones right here. So if you play with the pearl dice, up to 3 of these dice may be added to the bag. So you can also choose to just add 1 or 2, and they are rolled before any other dice, even before the golden dice. Use these first. And when you place pearl dice on top of the treasure stack, no other dice, not even golden ones or parrots, can be stacked on top of them. Because as you all know, pearls are of course round, so you can't stack anything on top. And if at the end of the game there's only pearls and perhaps also golden dice remaining, then you turn all pearl dice to the skull and rat bone side and all golden dice to the parrot, and then you take turns trying to attempt to place them on the teetering treasure towers. So let's go over the pearl dice faces here. We have the trident here, which is King Neptune. Carefully take the 3 highest dice from the tops of the treasure stack as a gift to Neptune. The pearl trident goes back into the bag along with the 3 dice plucked from the stack. The cutlass here means you walk the plank. You take 2 planks, and 2 planks must be placed on the treasure stack before any other action is taken, and this one also goes back into the bag. Then we have the skull and rat bones. The pearl rat bones must be placed onto an accessible plank's rat square. If none are to be found, a new plank must be put onto the treasure stack with the pearl rat bones upon one of the rat squares. Then we have the compass here. So this compass opens up far lands. You start a new island by putting a new base plank anywhere that is not touching an existing treasure stack base, and the compass pearl is also placed on it. So this stays. The blunderbuss here, the gun, is a jewel. You choose one of the other players as a victim, and both players roll all their dice. If any of your dice are exact Paradice matches with your victims, those are gleefully passed to them. So lessen your load and increase theirs. And the pearl pistol is kept in your hand to be rolled again in the next round. And finally, there's the mermaid. And as you know, mermaids go after silver. So all silver dice in your hand, no matter what symbol, must be placed beneath the pearl mermaid on an empty square on the treasure stack. If you have no silver, or if there are no empty spaces available, the pearl mermaid must be kept in your hand until you pick silver from the bag or there's a free square. And then the pearl mermaid and any silver must then be placed on the treasure stack at the beginning of your turn before any other action is taken. And those are all the rules for Dice Splice. Let's go to my final thoughts. So my final thoughts on Dice Splice by SeaGriffin Games, and I'd like to thank Kate and Matt for donating a copy for me to review. I've had a lot of fun with this. Well, let's start with the components. Obviously, there's all these dice. There's a lot of dice in this game. All of them wooden dice, rounded corners, really nice, printed with all of these symbols on them. The symbols are all in gold. So all of these dice are already really cool, and this is what really caught my eye at the UK Games Expo where I got this game. And then, of course, you have all of these planks, which are all these Tetris kind of shapes, all kinds of different shapes, with just planks on one side, but sometimes also rat pirates on the other side, which prevent you from playing dice on those spots. And it's just so much fun to build something with these things. It's a really fun little dexterity game, very colorful for ages 5 and up. So you can play this with the whole family, and it's just a lot of fun. And, you know, it gets wobbly the higher you go. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Components are really nice. The box is nice and compact as well and very sturdy. Has a nice illustration on it. It's very colorful. You get the velvet bag. You get a black one in the core game, and I think this one with the rat skull and crossbones with the pearls expansion, if I'm not mistaken, or this might have been an extra thing at the UK Games Expo. I kind of forgot. But it has a really nice velvet bag in any case. And I do like that they already include a mini expansion with the gold dice in the core box, and like I said, there's the pearl dice as a separate expansion, which also adds more gameplay and more strategy to the already pretty extensive game. There's a lot of extra rules you can add to the base rules to make it more interesting. The artwork, like I said, is pretty nice. There's just art on the box, otherwise there's just art on the tiles here with the little rats on them. And that's it. The rest are symbols printed on the dice. So there's not a whole lot of art, but it does look really attractive on the box itself. The theme is fun. You know, it's pirates. You're getting your booty. All of these symbols represent some kind of treasure for pirates. And of course, planks, because you're walking the plank. I guess you're building your base maybe, or your island where you are dividing the booty. I don't quite know how to fit the dexterity element into the pirate theme, but I do like the fact that you have all of this loot and you're trying to match loot. And I particularly like the rules where you have the mermaids going after the silver, so you have to cover up your silver with another color, and that's kind of fun. And the mermaids are also on the pearl dice here as well. So it kind of ties in. They did their best to make it as thematic as possible. And for me, it works. I think it's a cute theme that works nicely with this type of game. So the gameplay itself then, it's pretty simple. You've seen the rules. You're basically just stacking dice. You're matching either color or symbol, or perhaps both. You can do plays where you have matching dice, so you have the Paradice or the Splice dice that you can instantly play and get rid of more dice, trying to get rid of all of your dice, of course, if you can, and trying to give other people some dice, or making it hard for them to complete their turn. You can also use your planks to your advantage by covering up spaces where they might want to build. And the whole thing just keeps on growing until eventually it does topple. And I think that's just a lot of fun. It's a relatively light but fun dexterity game, which has a lot of optional rules that you can all add to make it a lot more challenging. The replayability is good. I mean, there's so many dice and plenty of planks, and with the additional rules and the additional pearl dice that you can optionally get, there's plenty of replayability, or you can spice it up every time by adding 1 or 2 new rules or switching it up. This time you're using these rules, another time you're using different rules, or just using all of them. And I mean, that's all good fun, so that keeps the replayability relatively good, I think. And finally, there's the language dependency. Other than the rule book, the game is fully language independent, because all you're doing is drawing dice from the bag till you have 7 dice, you roll them, And then on your turn, you place as many dice as you can, and possibly playing some planks as well before you play your dice. And again, with the expansions, everything is just symbols and colors. It's very simple, it's very family friendly and accessible. So technically language independent. So in the end, I thought this was a very enjoyable, light dexterity game that has a lot of ways to play it, which keeps the gameplay fresh. Very much recommend trying out this game if you come across it at a store or a games convention. Definitely try it out, because I'm sure you'll take this home with you. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and please also check out my Patreon page by clicking the link in the description below or the icon at the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time on Board Game Heaven.